Herb. Herb is a plant. I mean, herbs are good for everything. Herb.
Welcome to Eugene Cannabis TV. You got DanK on this side and my friend Jeremy over here on the right, a guest commentator and wants to be on the show more, so I'm glad to have the help. Thanks for coming in. We've got some interesting stories to go. First of all, I want to talk about Colorado. This is real exciting. A Colorado farmer harvests the first U.S. commercial hemp in 56 years. Colorado farmer Ryan Laughlin made history last week by harvesting the nation's first, I just said that, 56 years. Hemp advocates said Laughlin's harvest is a landmark event that could one day lead to large-scale domestic farming of hemp for industrial uses such as food additives, cosmetics, and building materials. Hemp is genetically related to marijuana, but contains only traces of THC, the psychoactive substance that gets marijuana users high. Laughlin's 55-acre crop in southeastern Colorado's Baca County won't yield large amounts of hemp seed oil or other byproducts, but it is quite significant symbolically, said Tom Murphy, National Outreach Coordinator for the advocacy group Vote Hemp. The sale of hemp products in the U.S. reached an estimated $500 million last year, according to Hemp Industries Association. Yet all the hemp used for the products was imported because hemp law prohibits its cultivation in the U.S. under the Controlled Substances Act of 1970. The last known commercial crop was harvested in Wisconsin in 1957. Colorado's passage of Amendment 64 paved the way for legal cultivation of hemp, but Laughlin chose to plant his crop earlier this year before implementation of the state's hemp growing regulations, which are scheduled to take effect next year. Laughlin used social media to line up about 45 volunteers to hand harvest his crop on Saturday and Sunday. Use of a mechanical combine, he said, would have harmed the plant's stalks, which can be used in construction materials and for animal bedding. Laughlin said some of his hemp seed will be pressed for oil and subsequently purchased by Dr. Bronner's Magic Soaps, a major use of hemp oil. We're very excited that Ryan has done this, said David Bronner, president of the company. Ryan has kind of busted it open and taken this necessary step to make hemp a viable crop. So that's incredible. And David Bronner Soaps was the sponsor at the Hempfest this last year. I really appreciated the help from that company, great company. So anyway, that's interesting, great. Well, now we need to get hemp growing in Oregon. So you want to do the next story, Jeremy?
Yeah, this story is from Maine. Maine marijuana vote has heavy national implications. Could be the next domino. Portland, Maine advocates of a recreational marijuana use are looking to an upcoming vote in Maine as an indicator whether the East Coast is ready to follow in the footsteps of Colorado and Washington by legalizing cannabis. Voters in Portland are being asked whether they want to make it legal for adults 21 and over to possess, but not to purchase or sell up to 2.5 ounces of pot. The November 5 vote is being eyed nationally as momentum grows in favor of legalizing marijuana use. The Marijuana Policy Project, a Washington, D.C. based company that supports legalization, says it targeted Portland because it's Maine's largest city and because, unlike many other states and cities, it has an initiative process to get the referendum on the ballot. Organizers hope passage of the Portland initiative could spur similar results in other liberal Northeast cities. I think there's national implications keeping the momentum that Washington and Colorado started last November and ending marijuana prohibition, said David Boyer of the organization's political director in Maine. This is just the next domino. There's no organized opposition to the referendum, but law enforcement and substance abuse groups are speaking out against it. In reality, the vote in Portland won't change anything because people aren't going to be targeted by the police for possession, said David Sabet, director of Smart Approaches to Marijuana, a national alliance that opposes legalization and imprisoning people for marijuana possession. Legalizing pot sends a message to youth that using marijuana is no big deal, when it carries health risks, including a increased heart rate, respiratory problems, and memory problems, Sabet said. The Portland referendum is a first step towards establishing a marijuana industry, he said. People with small amounts of marijuana are not going to be locked up in jail, he said. This is really about a much bigger issue, which is moving in towards the retail sales model, where we would really be introducing our new version of big tobacco in Maine. If the ballot measure passes, it'll be largely symbolic because it won't override state and federal laws. Pot possession is a low priority for Portland's police, but they'll continue enforcing state law. Police Chief Michael Sukuk said, besides possessing 2.5 ounces or less of marijuana is already a civil offense under state law, where violators are issued a ticket and fined, he said. A majority of Americans now think marijuana possession should be legal, according to a Pew Research Center poll in March. In the national survey, 52% of respondents said marijuana should be legal, while 45% said it should not, marking the first time in more than 40 years of polling that a majority favored legalization. Washington and Colorado last year legalized the possession of up to an ounce of pot by adults 21 and over, with voters deciding to set up systems of state-licensed growers, processors, and sellers. In August, the Department of Justice said federal authorities wouldn't preempt state law as long as the states developed a sound regulatory structure. There hasn't been any public polling on the Portland ballot question, but marijuana legalization supporters in the liberal city are confident it will pass. Peter Johnson, an 28-year-old artist, is among those who favor the initiative. I don't think it's a bad thing as long as people use it in moderation, just like anything. But George South, 59, thinks legalization would send a message to children that it's okay to do drugs. Marijuana affects your brain and slows your brain down, he said, and it's a drug that shouldn't be legalized. 20 states, 8 and Washington, D.C. have legalized marijuana for medical use, and it's time to do the same for recreational use, said Mason Port, National Communications Director for the Marijuana Policy Project. His group identified 10 states where it intends to support legalization efforts in the next few years. A signature collecting drive is now underway in Alaska to force a vote in 2014 with Arizona, California, Hawaii, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, and Vermont targeted for legalization in 2016 and 2017. I think more people than ever before recognize the fact that marijuana is actually less harmful than alcohol, and they're questioning their beliefs about why it should be illegal. He said, I think there are a lot of younger people who, like with marriage equality, are simply growing up with a different mindset with this type of social issue. But I also think there are a lot of people in their 40s and 50s who have came to recognize that they've been told that what they've been told about marijuana their whole lives simply isn't true.
Yep, that's great. No organized opposition. That's the same thing we had last year with Measure 80. We had no measurized opposition. Even with that, we still lost, but only 47%. So, I mean, that wasn't a bad loss. We almost made it. So we'll run out of our first segment real quick. Let me run through the drug war headlines for the week of the October 10th. The fall and rise and the death of a death to meth DA. John Alexander went from tweaker to DA in a remote Northern California county, but his misconduct has him on the ropes again. U.S. Supreme Court rejects marijuana reclassification appeal. The U.S. Supreme Court has smothered the last breath of life left in the third effort to reschedule marijuana out of Schedule 1. But a fourth effort is already in progress. Marijuana update. The feds back off in some Southern California asset forfeiture cases. An Iowa newspaper tells local authorities to back off from prosecuting a cancer patient, and several states move forward with implementing their medical marijuana laws. Switzerland decriminalizes marijuana possession. As of this week, getting caught with a small amount of marijuana in Switzerland will get you no more than a fine. Romania legalizes medical marijuana. Romania has become the latest European nation to approve medical marijuana. Venezuela to shoot down drug planes. The Venezuelan government is threatening to shoot down suspected drug-running planes out of the sky. Brazil and Peru already do that. So we'll continue here on the next segment, but this is stopthewar.org headlines. I recommend highly that you go to their website and sign up for their weekly email headlines. It's really interesting stories, and you can find out what's going on not only in the United States but all over the world. And some exciting things are happening. For instance, Texas. Texans are ready to legalize marijuana. Lone Star State voters are ready to legalize marijuana, legalize medical marijuana, and or decriminalize marijuana according to a new poll. The times, they are changing. We'll see you in the next segment. Thank you, Jeremy. We'll be right back.
Do you suffer from fear of losing your election? Are you terrified that voters will discover you've done nothing to improve their lives? Maybe it's time you talk to your spin doctor about Incarcerex. In clinical trials, Incarcerex has been shown effective at reducing election-related anxieties by making voters think you're doing something about the drug problem. It's simplistic and fast-acting. If your problems continue or get worse, you can always double or triple your dose of Incarcerex. Whether it's addiction, therapeutic use, or just casual use, there's an Incarcerex plan for every American. Best of all, taxpayers, not you, will foot the bill. So talk to your spin doctor about Incarcerex today. Common side effects include loss of civil liberties, police corruption, racial injustice, increased terrorism, spread of HIV and AIDS, and violent crime. Bloated prisons are also a common side effect. Stop taking Incarcerex if bloating lasts longer than 20 years. If you're trying to balance the budget, keep families together, or protect human rights, Incarcerex may not be right for you. Do not mix Incarcerex with the Constitution or common sense. So start taking Incarcerex and keep pretending you're doing something about the drug problem.
We're back from our break, and you got Jeremy on my right, and you got DanK here. I was just going through the Stop the Drug War headlines for the week of August 10th. These are at stopthedrugwar.org. Great organization, good website, and a good place to sign up for emails to get digest of stories is what we're reading here. There's a poll in Maryland. Polls find Maryland, Florida ready for marijuana reform. Florida and Maryland are just the latest states to report poll results sure to please marijuana law reformers. And then this week's corrupt cop stories. A Florida police department has defined drug war racket, plus more cops with pain pill issues. A Texas deputy goes down for slinging cocaine. A former Milwaukee cop gets slapped for putting his hands in the wrong place. And an ex-Chicago cop goes away for ripping off drug carriers. Just another week of drug-related police corruption. So, anyway, that's the week of the 10-17, or 10-13, or 10-10, excuse me.
This is a Stop the Drug War headlines for 10-17-13. Jerry Brown vetoes California defelonization bill in a move that cuts against more than a decade of sentencing reform in California. Governor Jerry Brown has vetoed a bill that would allow some people caught with small amounts of drugs to face misdemeanor charges instead of felonies. Marijuana reform could earn UK billions of dollars a year, studies say. Marijuana legalization could bring billions to the British government, two studies show, but there is little political will to move in that direction. Chronicle writer, editor, Philip Smith to receive an award. Our writer, Phil Smith, will be honored for his work on this newsletter in Denver next week.
Yeah, I want to comment on that's Phil Smith. We've done a lot of stories that Phil Smith has written on our show, so we definitely appreciate Phil Smith with stopthedrugwar.org. Go ahead.
Washington State approves legal marijuana rules. Washington State's rules for legal marijuana commerce are now set. Look for some 300 plus stores to open starting around the middle of next year. UN drug chief warns of Afghanistan narco state. The looming pullout of Western forces from Afghanistan could lead to an economic collapse and the strengthening of the country's opium economy, the UN anti-drug chief warned Wednesday. It just sounds like more crap to me.
Yeah, definitely. In fact, you're talking about becoming a narco state. It is a narco state already, so I mean, it's going to become a narco state.
Yeah. Medical marijuana update. A dispensary crackdown gets underway, and Arizona, a judge throws out a restrictive dispensary ordinance. And it's the Michigan Supreme Court hears a dispensary ban case and much, much more. I guess they aren't listening to the many executive orders by Obama to leave medical marijuana alone.
Right, yeah.
Florida Attorney General bans crazy clown drug. A new set of synthetic cannabinoid drugs are emerging, and the knee-jerk prohibitionist response ban them is kicking in. Well, yeah, of course we want to ban fake pot. We want the real thing.
Yeah.
The synthetic stuff is what's wrong with the drugs in this country. The pharmaceutical drugs cause problems, and the real thing, like marijuana, is what we really need.
Yeah.
Jamaica debates marijuana decriminalization. The hemispheric winds of change around marijuana law reform are blowing on the Caribbean island and nation of Jamaica too. Lawmakers debated decriminalization there Tuesday. Second, and 2014 in California medical legalization initiative filed. While the conventional wisdom is to wait for 2016 for California medical
No, it's not medical. Excuse me, it's not medical.
For California marijuana legalization initiative for recreational use. Some Californians aren't waiting. Now a second legalization initiative has been filed. Tennessee cops kill a man in a meth lab raid. A Tennessee meth lab raid leaves one man dead after attempting to flee in his vehicle. This week's corrupt cop stories. A hard partying Colorado cop calls it career. A DC cop launders a bit of drug money. A North Carolina narc gets caught with her fingers in the jar. And a retired cop uses his old badge and cop plates to sell dope.
Yeah, so again, that's to stopthedrugwar.org, and again, you can sign up for those headlines, and of course, you can go to their website for the full stories on those articles too. So I wanted to finish up here with an interesting story out of Amsterdam. Let me real quick before then, I want to remind everybody that court support. Our friend Danbo, known to us as Danbo, his name is Daniel Carl Ernst. He's a good friend of ours, been on the show in the past many times, a real warrior, the bravest man I ever met, a freedom lover, and believes in the Constitution, cannabis, and the whole bit. Well, anyway, he's facing federal charges. And it's November 19th is the date. It's going to be at the new federal courthouse and in Eugene. I'm not sure the time yet, but I'll be letting everybody know when I get the time. But it'll be November 19th, and so we need to get court support. We need to get people in there. We need people in the court just to show support. If we can fill that room, it can make a difference. I've seen it happen in other court hearings, including in his own. I've been to many of his court hearings too. Every one of them has been an incredible experience. So anyway, again, that's November 19th. So you can write to us for information on that. This is out of Amsterdam. Cannabis scratch and sniff cards help Dutch bust growers. A Dutch initiative to combat illegal cannabis cultivation through the use of marijuana-scented scratch and sniff cards has gone nationwide to alert citizens to what their neighbors may be up to. The expansion comes after a pilot project launched 3 years ago to combat illegal weed plantations by helping people to recognize the smell proved a success. Backed by police, city councils, and energy service providers who have had their electricity stolen, thousands of cannabis-odored cards will be distributed in 4 Dutch cities, including Amstelveen, near Amsterdam, a spokesman for the initiative said. The cards are being made available across the country, starting with the 4 cities this week. We hope that our other cities will follow. He said the cards were introduced in The Hague and Rotterdam. The number of reported plantations has gone up enormously when one call to police a day in each city. The proportion of people able to sniff out illegal plantation increased from 40 to 60%. The Netherlands is known for its expertise in hydroponic cultivation, and the growing of illegal cannabis is no exception. There are an estimated 30,000 illegal cannabis nurseries in the Netherlands, with plantations set up in attics, cellars, garages, and even entire houses. Police estimate the bulk cultivation and sale of cannabis was worth more than 2.2 billion euros in 2012. Most of it in the hands of criminal organizations. With this cannabis-scented card, you can recognize the smell of marijuana cultivation. Scratch, sniff, and help, reads the text on the green scratch card, which lists a police telephone number. Illicit cannabis cultivation is dangerous because of the fire risk created by illegal electricity connections and faulty wiring. At least 20% of all industrial fires are caused by illegal electrical cultivation. Illegal power connections also tap some 20 million euros, that's $270 million, in stolen electricity from service suppliers every year. And so, see, last year police rolled up 5,800 nurseries, according to the latest police statistics. There were quite a number of comments on this article, and two of them that I wanted to pass on to everybody. I got a kick out of both of them. The first comment that I picked up here was, it says, do the illegal plantations of marijuana smell differently than the legal ones? And then my favorite is, if this works out, they plan to launch a similar program to take a bite out of prostitution. So, anyway, it shows the kind of ridiculous ideas, but at least people can consume it and can possess it over there. So we have made some progress.
My question is, why do they have to take something in that could be interesting, like a scratch and sniff marijuana card, and make it into a bad thing?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, we have some friends of ours here up in Mocala that actually are marketing the scent of cannabis and saying we should promote it, not try to hide it. So I haven't heard them for a while, but it's an interesting idea. Yeah. So I should get a hold of them. Anyway, so we're going to fold her up, and thanks for coming. Please come down and see us Monday nights, Eugene Cannabis TV, Community TV Studios, Monday night, 7:30. Thank you.
If you're an adult who enjoys a good beer, there's a similar product you might want to know about. One without all the calories and serious health problems. Less toxic so it doesn't cause hangovers or overdose deaths, and it's not linked to violence or reckless behavior. Marijuana. Less harmful than alcohol, and time to treat it that way. For more information, visit marijuanaissafer.org.